Now, what is the kind of lighting you need? What is the degree of lighting you need? So it all depends on the minuteness of the work. Control of the climatic conditions also is essential for workers' health and comfort. If it is too hot, so there should be provision for fans or ACs. When there is proper ventilation facility in the organization, it will help in evaporation of the sweat which is on the body. Hello everyone, I am Purnima, faculty in the Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. I welcome you all to the session. In the session 3 of Unit 2, we will be having a discussion on the various facilities which are to be provided in a plant layout. Now, the first facility to be provided is the lighting. It is estimated that 80% of the information required in doing the job is pursued visually. So, whenever we are told a job, the job has to be pursued visually by the worker and then he has to just do the job. Good visibility of equipment, the product and the data involved in the work process is an essential factor in accelerating production, reducing the number of defective products, cutting down waste and preventing visual fatigue and headaches among the workers. So, if you can have a proper lighting facility in the factory layout, then we can reduce the number of defective products. So, if the number of defective products can come down, so when the defective products come down, there'll be a reduction in the waste and we can also prevent visual fatigue and headaches among the workers. So, the workers' headaches can be reduced. So, it may also be added that both inadequate visibility and glare are frequent causes of accidents. So, there should not be too much of glare also in the lighting and inadequate lighting also. They are the main causes for accidents. In principle, lighting should be adapted to the type of work. However, the level of illumination measured in should be increased not only in relation to the degree of precision or miniaturization of the work, but also in relation to the worker's age. Now, what is the kind of lighting you need? What is the degree of lighting you need? So, it all depends on the minuteness of the work. So, if you are having very precision work to be done, for example, in a watch assembling unit, so you need light to be focused on the product itself and the worker has to just work on the product with the help of that light because it involves very miniature parts. So this kind of work which requires, so depending on the kind of product we are manufacturing, we need the lighting system and also in relation to the worker's age. The accumulation of dust and the wear of the light sources cut down the level of illumination by 10 to 15% of the original level. So, the light sources, so we have to see that proper lighting is essential for working of the employees. This gradual drop in the level should be therefore compensated for when designing the lighting system. Regular cleaning of lighting fixture is obviously essential. So, when providing the lighting facilities in the factory layout, we should also provide for regular cleaning up of the lighting. So, whenever the dust it sits on the bulb, so it will just reduce the glare or it will reduce the light which it emits. So, regular cleaning is essential. Then, excessive contrast in lighting levels between the worker's task and the general surrounding should also be avoided. So, whenever there should not be too much of difference between the lighting in the work area and the general area. Then, the use of natural light should be encouraged. So, try to make maximum use of the natural light which is available. This can be achieved by installing windows that open, which are recommended to have an area equal to the time of the day, the distance of the workstation from the windows, and the presence or absence of the blinds. So, keeping all these things in mind, that is, the area equal to the time of the day and the distance of the workstation from the windows and the absence or presence of blinds, all these have to be kept in mind when we are installing the windows. For this reason, it is essential to have artificial lighting which will enable people to maintain proper vision and ensure that the lighting intensity ratios between the task, the surroundings and the general environment are maintained. So if there is lot of difference between the workstation and the general surrounding area of lighting, then it is best to resort to artificial lighting, so which will try to just reduce the difference between the general lighting and the lighting at the workstation. Then next one is the control of lighting. For uniform light distribution, install an independent switch for the row of lighting fixtures closest to the windows. This allows the light to be switched on and off depending on whether or not the natural light is sufficient. So for uniform light distribution, so install an independent switch for the row of lighting fixtures closest to the windows. So as and when the natural light comes down, that is in the evening when the light is reducing, so you can automatically switch on the switches of the artificial light. To prevent glare, avoid using highly shiny glossy work surfaces. So the work surfaces also should be such that it will not glare the workers. Then use localized lighting in order to achieve the desired level for a particular fine job. So localized lighting should be used. Clean light fixtures regularly and follow a maintenance schedule so as to prevent flickering of old bulbs and electrical hazards due to worn out cables. So we should also ensure that there is regular maintenance of the cables and also the regular cleaning of the lights in order to see that there is no flickering of the light and also there is no short circuit because of the worn out cables. Avoid direct eye contact with the light sources. This is usually achieved by positioning them properly. The use of diffusers is also quite effective. So try to see that there is no direct eye contact with the light sources. So this can be achieved by positioning them properly. See that the workers don't come in direct contact with the light sources. Then climatic conditions. The control of the climatic conditions at the workplace is paramount importance to the workers' health and comfort and to the maintenance of higher productivity. So control of the climatic conditions also is essential for workers' health and comfort. If it is too hot, so there should be provision for fans or ACs. Then if it is too cold, then there should be provision for heaters to keep the workers comfortable when they are working. With excess heat or cold, workers may feel very uncomfortable and the efficiency drops. So try to keep the workers as comfortable as possible, because the comfort level of the workers will have a direct effect on the efficiency of the workers. In addition, this can lead to accidents. So this human body functions in such a way so as to keep the central nervous system and the internal organs at constant temperature. So this human body will sustain any kind of heat or cold. So it will try to keep it heat or warm depending on the climatic conditions. It maintains the necessary thermal balance by continuous heat exchange with the environment. It is essential to avoid excessive heat or cold and wherever possible to keep the climatic conditions optimal so that it maintains a thermal balance. So we should try to ensure that there is proper thermal balance in the human body. Then next, working in a hot environment. So hot working environments are found almost everywhere. Work premise in tropical countries may, on account of general climatic conditions, be naturally hot. So usually in tropical countries like India, so we have a very hot climate and workers have to work in this hot climate. So when source of heat such as furnaces, kilns or hot processes are present, or when the physical workload is heavy, the human body may also have to deal with excessive heat. So not only the climatic climatic conditions is hot, but also the work processes also. For example, in an iron and steel industry, so the workers have to deal with the hot furnace and a hot molten iron which will have to be flowing. So with all this excessive heat, the human body will have to cope up with it. So it should be noted, in such hot working environments, sweating is almost the only way in which the body can lose heat. So the body tries to maintain the temperature of the human body by just sweating. So with the help of sweating, the body tries to cool the human body. As the sweat evaporates, the body cools. So there is a relationship between the amount and speed of evaporation and a feeling of comfort. So the speed of evaporation and the feeling of comfort is there when the sweat evaporates from the body. The more intense the evaporation, the quicker the body will cool and feel refreshed. Evaporation increases with adequate ventilation. So when there is proper ventilation facility in the organization, it will help in evaporation of the sweat which is on the body. Then, working in a cold environment. So working in cold environment was once restricted to non-tropical or highly elevated regions. So this is usually found in the cold countries or in the hilly regions where the cold weather will be very cool. Now, as a result of modern refrigeration, various groups of workers, even in tropical countries, are exposed to a cold environment. So now, even in the tropical areas also, because of increased refrigeration facilities, we find people working in the cold environment. Exposure to cold for short periods of time can produce serious effects, especially when workers are exposed to temperatures below 10 degrees centigrade. So we can find some people, they'll be working in the refrigerated atmosphere, especially if it is a case of tissue culture or if it is in the manufacture of certain drugs which are to be manufactured in a very cold environment. Then workers have to be working there in temperatures below 10 degrees. The loss of body heat is uncomfortable and quickly affects the work efficiency. So people who are working under such cold climate, so it will reduce their work efficiency. Workers in cold climates and refrigerated premises should be well protected against the cold by wearing suitable clothes, including footwear, gloves, and most importantly, a hat. So workers who are working in such conditions, so we have to provide them with protective clothes so that they can withstand the heat. So they should be provided with the gloves, hat, and also the proper footwear. So normally dressing in layers traps dead air and serves as insulation layer, thus keeping the worker warmer. So try to see that the workers are kept warm when they are working under such cold conditions. Next, control of the thermal environment. There are many ways of controlling the thermal environment. It is relatively easy to assess the effect of the thermal conditions, especially when excessive heat or excessive cold is an obvious problem. So, in case of thermal conditions, try to see that the worker is not exposed to the extremities of hot or coldness. To solve the problem, however, consistent efforts using a variety of available measures are usually necessary. So, how do we just cope up with the extremities of the climate? This is because the problem is linked with the general climate, which greatly affects the workplace climate, production technology, which is often the source of heat or cold, and the varying conditions of the work premises, as well as work methods and schedules. So all this will have a bearing on the thermal climate. Personal factors such as clothing, nutrition, personal habits, and age, and individual differences in response to the given thermal conditions also need to be taken into account in an attempt to attain the thermal comfort of the workers. So the thermal comfort of the workers have to be taken into consideration when we are making them work in such environment. Next, how do we control the thermal environment? So in controlling the thermal environment, one or more of the following principles must be applied. Regulating workroom temperature by preventing outside heat or cold from entering. Improved design of the roof, insulation material, or installing an air conditioning workroom. So, while we are regulating the workroom temperature by preventing outside heat or cold from entering. So, we have to have a control of the thermal environment. So, how do we do that? By seeing that there is no cold or heat which comes inside the room. So, air conditioning is costly, especially in factories, but it is sometimes worthwhile investment if an appropriate type is chosen. So, air conditioning of the entire factory will be a very costly affair. So, but depends on the management policy. Provision of ventilation in hot workplaces by increasing natural ventilating through openings or installing ventilation devices. So try to provide as much ventilation as possible. Separation of heat sources from the working area, insulation of hot surfaces and pipes, or placement of barriers between the heat sources and the workers. So when we have separate of heat sources from the working area, we can just avoid the heat from entering the employees. The control of humidity with a view to keeping it at low levels, for example, by preventing the escape of steam from pipes and equipments. So we can just control the humidity by taking some preventive measures. Then next one, the provision of adequate personal protective clothing and equipment of workers exposed to excessive radiant heat or excessive cold. Heat protective clothing with high insulation value may not be recommended for jobs with long exposure to moderate or heavy work, as it prevents evaporative heat loss. So if you are giving protective gears to the employees, try to see that it is not having a bearing on the work efficiency. Try to see that it increases the efficiency of the workers. The reduction of exposure time, for example, by mechanization, remote control, or alternating the work schedules. So in case the worker has to work under such extreme conditions, proper provision should be made so that it can be mechanized. The entire process can be mechanized and it can be operated by the worker with the help of the remote control. So in this way, we can protect the workers. And insertion of rest pauses between work periods with comfortable, possible air-conditioned resting facilities. So if the worker has to work under hot conditions, then there should be proper rest intervals for the worker. So when he is resting, so the area of resting should be properly air conditioned so that he can just bear the heat. Then ensuring a supply of cold drinking water for workers in a hot environment and hot drinks for those exposed to a cold environment. So if the worker is working in a cold environment, make provision for hot drinks. And if the worker is working in a hot environment, see that he is provided with cold drinks. Next, ventilation. Ventilation is the dynamic parameter that complements the concept of airspace. So, the movement of air, so within the building, factory, so that can be just complemented with the help of proper ventilation. For a given number of workers, the smaller the work premises, the more should be the ventilation. So if the workspace is small and the number of workers is more, then there should be proper ventilation provided. Ventilation differs from air circulation. Ventilation replaces contaminated air by fresh air, whereas the air circulation merely moves the air without renewing it. So ventilation should not be mistaken with air circulation. Ventilation means it will replace the fresh air with the contaminated air, whereas air circulation means it will be just cooling the air where air temperature and humidity are high. Merely to circulate the air is not only ineffective but also increases heat absorption. So where the air temperature is very high, then ventilation will help in having a cooling effect within the factory building. Ventilation disperses the heat generated by machines and people at work. So it will disperse the heat generated by machines and at people at work. Adequate ventilation should be looked upon as an important factor in maintaining the workers' health and productivity. So, the essence ventilation will have a bearing on the worker's efficiency and his comfort zone. So, we should make proper provision for ventilation in the factory building. Then, except for confined spaces, all working premises have some minimum ventilation. However, to ensure necessary airflow, which should not be lower than 50 cubic meters of air per hour per worker, air usually needs to be changed between 4 to 8 times per hour in offices, or for sedentary workers between 8 to 12 times per hour in workshops, as much as 15 or 30 times more for public premises where there are high levels of atmospheric pollution or humidity. So, depending on the number of workers who are working in the environment, the air has to be changed. So, if there are more number of workers who are working in that confined space, then the air has to be changed at least 15 to 30 times per hour. But if the workers are less, then you can just change the air between 4 to 8 times. So depending on the number of workers, we need to change the air, or we need to have proper ventilation of the air. The air speed used for workplace ventilation should be adapted to the air temperature and the energy expenditure. So the air speed necessary should be adapted to the air temperature and the energy expenditure. For sedentary work, it should exceed 0.2 meter per second. So this is the air speed we are talking about. For sedentary means if the workers are simply sitting in one place and doing the work, for them the air speed is 0.2 meters per second. But for hot environment, the optimum speed is 0.5 and 1 meter per second. So the the speed of airflow should be at this rate. For hazardous work, it may be even higher. So if the worker is working on some dangerous work, then the airspeed should be higher. Certain types of hot work can be made tolerable by directing a stream of cold air at the workers. So if the workers are working in a very hot environment, then you can have a stream of cold air at intervals which will flow on the workers and have a cooling effect on the workers. Then natural ventilation obtained by opening windows or wall or roof air vents may produce significant air flows but can normally be used only in relatively mild climates. So natural ventilation can be used but in mild climates. The effectiveness of this type depends largely on the external conditions. So if the external conditions are favorable, then natural ventilation can be used. But if it is too hot, that is during the summer season, then it is best to have a proper system of air conditioning. Where natural ventilation is inadequate, artificial ventilation should be used. A choice may be made between a blown air system, an exhaust air system, or a combination of both. Push-pull ventilation. Only push-pull ventilation systems allow for better regulation of air movement. So, in the ventilation, when you are providing proper ventilation to the workers, so we should take care about what is the natural climatic condition, and depending on that, we have to plan for the ventilation system. So, whether it is the blown air system or the exhaust air system, so or a combination of both, which we call it as the push-pull ventilation. So it allows for better regulation of the air movement. Then work-related welfare facilities. What are the work-related welfare facilities? They are offered at or through the workplace can be important factors. Some facilities are very basic but often ignored, such as drinking water and toilets. So these are the basic facilities which have to be provided for every worker who is working in a factory. Others may seem less necessary but usually have an importance to workers far greater than the cost to the enterprise. So we have to ensure that at least they are provided with drinking water and the toilets. So drinking water, safe, cool drinking water is essential for all types of work, especially in a hot environment. Without it, fatigue increases rapidly and productivity falls. So adequate drinking water should be provided and maintained at convenient points and clearly marked as safe drinking water. So safe drinking water should be properly marked, and there should be a provision for safe drinking water at convenient places within the plant layout. Wherever possible, it should be kept in suitable vessels, renewed at least daily, and all practical steps to preserve the water and vessels from contamination. So when so many workers go and take to drink the water, we should try to see that it is properly protected. Then next one is the sanitary facilities. Hygienic sanitary facilities should exist at workplaces. They are particularly important where chemicals or other dangerous substances are used. Sufficient toilet facilities with separate facilities for men and women workers should be installed and conveniently located. So the toilet should be conveniently located and provision should be made for both male and female workers. Changing rooms, cloakroom should be provided. Washing facilities such as wash basins with soap, towels, showers should be placed either within the changing rooms or close by. So all these facilities should be ensured for the workers. So first aid and medical facilities. Facilities for rendering first aid and medical care at the workplace in case of accidents or unforeseen sickness are directly related to the health and safety of the workers. So it is necessary to have a first aid and a medical kit, so which will help the workers in case of emergency. First aid boxes should be clearly marked and conveniently located. So there should be a mark on the first aid box. They should contain only first aid requisites of a prescribed standard and should be in charge of the qualified person. So there should be a person who is qualified in order to do the first aid. Apart from the first aid boxes, it is also desirable to have a stretcher and suitable means to transport injured persons to a center where medical care can be provided. So along with the first aid medical facilities, so we need to have a stretcher, so in case there is any injury to the worker, so he can be easily transported for better medical care. Then rest facilities. Rest facilities include seat, restrooms, waiting rooms and shelters. They help workers to recover from fatigue and get away from a noisy, polluted or isolated workstation. So a sufficient number of suitable chairs or benches with backrest should be provided and maintained, including seat for occasional rest of workers who are obliged to work standing up. Restrooms enable worker to recover during meal and rest breaks. So provision for restrooms should be there so that he can just rejuvenate himself during the intervals. Then feeding facilities. It is now well recognized that the health and work capacity of the workers to have light refreshments are needed. A full meal at the workplace is necessary when workers live some distance away from the hours of work and are so organized that meal breaks are short. A snack bar, mobile trolleys can provide tea, coffee and soft drinks as well as light refreshments. So all these can be provided. Canteens or restaurant can allow workers to purchase cheap, well-cooked, nutritious meal for reasonable price and eat in a cool, comfortable place away from the workstation. So we should ensure that there is a provision of canteen, so which is clean and which is away from the workstation, so that the employees can purchase food from the canteen and have it in a peaceful environment. Then child care facilities. Many employees find that working mother, especially loyal and effective workers, but they often face the special problem of caring for children. So it is for this reason the child care facilities, including creches and daycare centers, should be provided. So the mothers with small children, for them proper daycare facilities also should be provided. So there should be someone to take care of the children when they are working. So they should be in a secure, airy, clean and well-lit premises. Children should be looked after properly by qualified staff and offered food, drink, education and play at a very low cost. So all these kind of whatever daycare facilities we are providing, they should be offered at a very low cost to the employees. So recreational facilities offer workers the opportunity to spend the leisure time in activities likely to increase physical and mental well-being. So recreational facilities help the organization employees to rejuvenate themselves, so they can just de-stress themselves with the help of this recreational facilities. They may also help to improve the social relations within the enterprise. Such facilities includes hall for recreation, for indoor and outdoor sports, reading rooms and libraries, club for hobbies, picnics, special education and vocational training courses can also be organized. So these are the various work-related facilities. With this, we come to the end of this session. Hope you have all followed it. Thank you.